The world has mainly grown hotter since 1980 at a rate of nearly 0.2 degrees Celsius per decade. The annual global temperature from 2000 to 2009 was 0.61 degrees Celsius higher than the average temperature for 1951 to 1980. If the current rate of increase continues, the world will warm by 2 degrees Celsius in the next century. Resultantly, there has been an overall increase in natural disasters as the climate has become warmer and polar ice caps have begun to melt. This has led to an increase in abnormal weather patterns, superstorms, and natural disasters. Since many of the developing nations of the world lie on the equator, and the increase in severe weather patterns is prominent among these regions, developing nations are often the zones that experience the worst impacts of the global climate change. Some of the most harmful of these natural disasters are floods and droughts. On the eastern coast of Africa sits Uganda, one of the largest coffee producers in Africa. More than 2 million people are employed either directly or indirectly through their coffee industry. Since coffee trees are shallow-rooted, floods and droughts can affect their growth directly. Coffee beans require a delicate balance of temperature and rainfall, both of which are projected to be greatly affected by climate change. Indeed, in many vital coffee-producing areas, impacts are already being felt as changing rain patterns and temperatures are stifling the industry's attempt to boost production to meet rapidly rising demand. Temperature increases in Central America and East Africa are also creating a more favorable environment for pests and disease that target coffee beans, further challenging production.
With the rule of Yoweri Museveni in 1986, Uganda experienced extreme economic growth and relative stability. Despite the population of Uganda almost doubling over the last few decades, there have been various programs to eradicate poverty and ensure economic stability. Many of these efforts have been successful, dropping the percentage of people living below the poverty line from approximately 60 to 25%. Within the economic sphere, there are many factors and components that make up a system. According to Genna Meadows, a system is an interconnected set of elements that is coherently organized in a way that achieves something. A system consists of three kinds of things: elements, interconnections, and a function or purpose. In Uganda, agriculture is the major system at risk. Within the system, there are elements and interconnections that work to produce the common purpose of economic prosperity and positive international trade relations. The most important elements of agriculture are coffee crops, farmers, water supply, and fertile soil. Climate change is a present trend that defines the relationship that holds these elements together. As earlier noted, climate change is beginning to have severe impacts in regions around the world. This is no different for Uganda. With 82% of the labor force working in the agricultural sector, climate change greatly affects the infrastructure within Uganda. Past experience in Uganda shows that El Niño and La Niña episodes coincide with the most severe climate change-related disasters in Uganda. During a year of La Niña, the chances of drought conditions, often leading to famine conditions during the November to April and May period of the following year, are increased, especially over the eastern areas of the country. On the other hand, during an El Niño year, chances of intense flood levels are increased to October to December period over most parts of the country. In Uganda, severe droughts and floods have devastated much of the most important cash crop, coffee, resulting in poor harvests. In most years, farmers prepare for the rains in March. However, this year, there were heavy rains that were experienced in May, affecting the crop's flowering time. Uganda has registered a 13.4% decline in coffee exports this year, which has translated into a 12.5% fall in earnings due to prolonged drought in many parts of the country. As temperatures in Uganda have risen, coffee production has fallen and prices have dropped by more than half since 2011.
Coffee is the single most important commodity, accounting for almost half of total net exports of products. After a brief recovery in the mid-1990s, real coffee prices had fallen by 2001 to levels lower than ever recorded. In real terms, coffee prices today are less than one-third of their 1960 level, and for many producers, less than the cost of production. According to the International Coffee Organization, this impacts directly upon an estimated 20 to 25 million households in coffee-producing countries and indirectly upon 100 million others through the global interactions. The wider economic and political implications are clear. As James Wolfenson, president of the World Bank, noted, the reduction of coffee prices and also other commodities is undermining the economic sustainability of countries and millions of families in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. In addition to affecting the population of Uganda, the trade benefits coffee beans offer Uganda is also affected. With limited supply of coffee beans, Uganda will not be able to meet the demand from other countries. Aside from the aid from the United States, China is the next superpower offering to help the suffering Uganda. According to Samuel Kamau, Chief Executive Officer of African Fine Coffees Association, China is developing into a major trading partner with Africa and has a growing middle and upper class that present a real demand for coffee. Given China's interest in the Uganda coffee market, Ugandan farmers are now motivated to become knowledgeable about the intensity of climate change on their crops. With the predicted rise in average global temperature of approximately 2 degrees Celsius over the next century, Uganda's economic prosperity and stability is at risk. Given the temperamental climate of Uganda, a slight change in its temperature could result in a lack of fertile soil to further cultivate the economy through the growth of coffee beans. A tree planting program has been instituted to help rise coffee bean production by 54% by 2019 to 2020. At least 17 million trees were planted last season, and the number may climb to 225 million in total by 2019-2020.
Another prevalent outcome of the increasing sporadic weather patterns is the change in farming calendars. Traditionally, farmers have planted and weeded the coffee crop according to the coffee crop planting time, or the amount of rain necessary for germination and the age of the tree. Due to the growing uncertainty of rainfall and the natural disasters, farmers are changing their farming patterns to adjust their harvest to when the flood and drought season are most likely to occur. A project supported by the UNDP and the government of Sweden is helping to assess the impact of weather fluctuations on crops in Uganda and suggesting measures farmers can take to better prepare. Such measures include improving storage facilities, developing irrigation, and planting stress-resistant crop varieties. Farmers must begin to use soil and water conservation measures to reduce soil erosion, maintain soil fertility, and control pests and the negative impacts of water scarcity and water excess. Mulching coffee trees using maize stalks, banana fibers, and cow dung contributes to preventing weeds, erosion, water loss, and overheating, and to conserving soil fertility. Conclusively, the impending climate change is inevitable. However, there are policies and procedures that can be implemented to lessen the impacts of the economy of Uganda and the growth of the nation. Although there are currently various environmental policies that have been enacted, there is a lack of focus and funding on the environmental issues that Ugandan farmers face. This is due to the overextended scope of issues that the government is currently attempting to address. Moving forward, the government should consider reallocating funding to benefit the agricultural sector to help mitigate these future problems. Additionally, citizens may benefit from educational reforms that help farmers better understand the effects of climate change on its growing economy. To help develop further economic security, the government may want to explore its natural resources, such as oil, as a supplemental driver of economic growth. In the worst-case scenario, if the agricultural sector experiences devastation of global warming, the extraction of natural resources such as oil may be able to sustain their economy. In order to reach such an ideal world, the Ugandan government is going to have to continue to engage with outside actors such as the US, the UK, Sweden, and China, as well as NGOs. Looking to these outside resources will enable Uganda to reallocate funds towards efforts to mitigate future impacts of natural disasters and further stimulate economic growth. However, presently the lack of government policies and procedures targeting the impacts of natural disasters has the potential to lead to a digression of the Ugandan economy.